Hi guys, welcome back to Top Fit with Sisi LADE. Last week we talked about how to lose weight eating all classes of food and where we actually stopped and said we were going to continue with the next episode is how to spend your calories. So if you recall last week, I said there is actually what we know as being in a calorie surplus, which is actually what leads to weight gain, and then there is also what is called the calorie deficit, which is what actually leads to weight loss. And if you would recall, I said calorie actually differs from one person to the other. That is what I might be eating and adding weight, you might be eating the same quantity and be losing weight. So while some of us may actually have been so bothered about getting this calorie formula to calculate our individual calorie allowance for the day, um is there really need for that? There is actually no need for that at this point. First of all, I like to know that there's actually a balance of calorie that you can actually use or that can be generally used in order to achieve weight loss, which is the 1005 to 1800 calorie allowance. So if you are the kind of person that is actually sedentary, that is, you don't have an active lifestyle, probably you work in an office where you're always on your seat for about 9 hours, you are just always there, or you're a work at home mom, or you work online and you are just always not active, then 1500 calorie is actually a good amount of calorie to start your weight loss journey. Okay, now if you are the active type, that is, you are always on the walk, you are always working, you are always on the move, you work out 3 to 4 times a day, you go to the gym, and you are just always active, then you can be on a 1800 calorie and you are still going to lose weight. So for the purpose of this talk and subsequent talks, we are going to be focusing on 1005 to 18. But because I know majority of us might want to belong to the sedentary group of people, we are actually going to be focusing more on 15. But if you are active and I'm talking about 15, know that yours is definitely going to be 1800. Then I would also advise not to go lower than 1500 calories, because some of us might think if we cut down our meals to the extreme, then it's going to hasten our weight loss. Well, the bottom line of this is that as you actually advance in your weight loss journey, your calorie allowance begins to decrease. Okay, and you need to eat at least 1200 in order to have an healthy lifestyle, in order to be in a healthy shape and not malnourished. So no matter what, you shouldn't go lesser than 1200. So when you are starting off at 1005, 1008, by the time you begin to lose weight, you begin to decrease till you actually get to 1200 if you are female. Okay, so it's better to stay at 15 before coming down to the lower calorie, than starting from the lowest calorie. At the end of the day, you are going to find yourself in a weight loss plateau. So please, let's take to 1005 to 1800 at first. So, talking about our topic for today, which is actually how to spend your calories. Since we now know that we are going to be in a 1005 to 1800, in whichever disposition you find yourself to be, now the first thing you need to do is to plan yourself. What kind of a person are you? How many times do you love to eat? Are you a foodie? Are you the kind of person that loves to eat almost all the time? Or are you someone that can actually go for hours without eating? Or are you actually someone that can actually stick to eating twice in a day? You get that kind of stuff. So, first of all, you need to get to know the kind of person that you are. So if you're the kind of person that actually loves to eat 2 times in a day, you can break your calories into two. That is going to be 750, 750, or 900 and 900. If you're the kind of person that loves to eat 3 times in a day, that's 500, 500, 500. If you're also the kind of person that loves to eat like 5 times in a day, like you love to eat bit by bit, you can break your calories into five. And that was going to be 300 per meal. So it doesn't really matter the amount of times that you eat. What matters is the calorie content of your meal in total. Okay, so just find out what actually works best for you, what is actually going to be convenient for you, a kind of plan that you are not going to actually feel restricted, something you can actually do, that you can actually stay long, and you can actually retain and sustain it. An eating pattern you can actually sustain, eating pattern that is actually going to be easy. So it's not like me telling someone who actually loves to eat bit by bit, and here I'm telling the person to be eating twice in a day. It might not really work out for the person because we all have our individual differences. So number one is to find out which one works best for you, so that it's going to be easy for you to plan yourself and plan your meals ahead. So that is point number one. Point two is that you need to know that all meals have their calorie. Everything has calories except water. Whatever it is you actually consume, they all have calories. And also, all this food and drink, they actually fall under three macronutrients, which we are going to be calling macro. Okay, so now we have three kind of macronutrients. We have the carbohydrates, we have the protein, and then we also have the fats. Now, these three macronutrients now have a particular amount of calories that they actually contain per gram. So the combination and quantity which is actually consumed of these macronutrients is actually what is going to give you the total amount of calories that you're actually going to be consuming. So for example, let's look at the calories that these macros actually contain per gram. So when we have carbohydrate actually contains about 4 calories per gram. Well, while talking about carbohydrates, we talk about protein as well. Protein has 4 calories per gram, while fats, on the other hand, has about 9 calories per gram. Okay, so that is to say that fat actually has the highest calories per gram out of all these macronutrients. And when we are talking about fats, we are talking about oil, we are talking about oil, we are talking about butter, we are talking about mayonnaise, we are talking about nuts, and everything that just has to do with fats. Okay, so now you need to know that the quantity of this macronutrient that you actually consume is actually going to give you the total quantity of calories that you're having. For example, let's say a cup of cooked rice. Okay, that one is about 205 calories. Then let's go to our protein, where we have about 100 gram of our chicken thigh raw. Okay, raw, not cooked yet. In the raw form, it's about 247 calories. While let's say, okay, we are going to be having our oil, about 100 ml, which is about 6 teaspoons, just 6 teaspoons of oil is about 100 ml. And that one is a whooping 812 or 821 calories. So now, which are you actually going to spend your calories on? I wanted to say money. So you see, 812 is actually expensive to spend on your calories. So you are going to take that your 1,500 as your currency that you are going to spend on food. So now the thing here is to look for meals that are actually low. Let's assume that we are broke and we have just 1,500 to spend per day. You will definitely want to use your 1,500 bit by bit in a way that is actually going to be beneficial to you. You won't use 821 out of 1,500 to buy just 6 tablespoons of oil. Just 6 tablespoons of oil that when you actually drink that oil, it's like you are drinking water. Unlike when you are spending that 821 calories on rice, which is about four cooked four cooked cups of rice, you're definitely going to feel fuller, unlike spending that amount of calories on oil. Okay, so that is to for you to know that you need to be able to know the component and the quantity of these macros that you need to consume. And you can still be safe being on the protein and being on the carb, but the most expensive one is fat. So that is to say, you should cut down on your fat. Cut down on your fat. Fat is too expensive for us. We cannot afford it. So we are going to go low on fat. Okay? So that's point two. Now, our third point comes meal preparation. Now, when we are talking about quantity, we also need to know that the way in which we actually prepare our meal is actually going to increase or just level the calorie content of that our meal. For example, let's take um let's take plantain for example. Let's say 100 gram of plantain, which is about 120 calories in its raw form. When it is being cooked, boiled with just salt, you are still retaining your 120 calories. It's still the same thing because water does not have calories, salt does not have calories as well. But the moment you now begin, or the moment you now fry this plantain with oil, which we know as fat, which is expensive, you are actually going to increase the calorie content. But instead of you to fry, you decide to air fry. It's still going to be 100 because you actually chose to go without the oil. Or let's say you decided to, probably you don't have an air fryer, you decided to just smoke it. Let's say you roast, yeah, for plantain. Decided to roast the plantain instead of frying it. You're still going to retain your 120 calories. But the moment that oil was added, the moment where it was actually deep fried, that is the moment where your plantain actually went from 120 to about 300. Now you see the difference. And what effect is it actually going to have in your tummy? It's still the 120 calories. Either you fried or you actually ate it boiled, it's still not going to pass where it's going to pass. So why spend extra on fat? Why spend extra on fatty food? It doesn't actually make sense, except if you actually want to and you really feel you are okay with spending that amount. If you are rich enough to spend that amount on fat, then you are good to go. So, and also let's talk about our soup. Actually, if you notice in Nigeria, what we actually eat the most is vegetables, nutty soups, and most of our meals are actually vegetables. Well, the problem here is not even the vegetable that we are eating. The problem here is the amount of oil that we actually put in this vegetable. You know, I mentioned previously that just 6 tablespoons of oil is going to give you about 821 or 812. I've forgotten the figure. And we know when we're actually cooking our soups, we don't even measure. If you actually measure 6 tablespoons of oil in your soup, you're going to see how little 6 tablespoons of oil is. Let alone when we just pour, like we just pour it without measuring. And we always want to see our soups looking glamorous with a lot of oil floating on top. Empty calorie. That's just what it is. Expensive calorie. That is just what it is. So, if you are going to be getting my point right now, is spend less calories on fat, spend less calories on oil. And by doing this, you have to restrict, or let's say just cut down your fried food, cut down on your chips, cut down on junks that are mainly full of sugar, cut down on nut. Yes, not as well. Not as well. They are also very, very fatty. So spend less calories on oil. Once you are able to cut your oil intake, the rest is actually small. Then you reduce the quantity of meal, you reduce the quantity of carbs, the quantity of protein that you are eating, then it is also going to help. Our third point is that proteins can be very, very trickish. Now, let me explain this. Most of our protein meals, most of our proteinous meals, they are actually, actually a component of protein and fats, except of course egg, which is purely protein. But let's take a look at chicken. Let's take a look at beef. Those beef that has all these fatty parts that we buy in the market. Do you know that when you actually cook the beef, which is protein, with the fatty parts, you are actually adding fat to your meal. But to you, you think you are eating protein. That is why some of us, when we go to the market, you will hear our parents say, "Me fail like that is I don't want fat." That fat alone is what actually increases the calorie content of your protein. Now let's look at chicken as well. When we actually eat the beefy side of our chicken, that is actually where the protein is. But you see, the skin part is majorly fat, fat, fat. So you can always remove your chicken skin. And also, when you are also trying to eat beef, you can remove the fatty part in order to cut yourself spending extra on fat. So the logic here is to try to reduce fat, because at the end of the day, fat is actually something that when you consume, you don't even feel it. You actually don't feel it, unlike when you consume carb that gives you energy. Fat doesn't give you energy. So what is the essence? So in this course of our program, fat is actually our enemy. And if you check on my previous upload, my recipes and all, you see how I actually cut down on fat. That is why the shawarma that I upload for 450, that I actually prepared by myself, you are actually going to be buying it outside, and the shawarma is actually going to be containing about 1000 calories. Why is this? This is going to be our number 4 point, which is eating at home and preparing your own made food. You see, when you actually prepare your food yourself, you are actually in control of the amount of calories you are actually preparing. You are in control of the amount of your food, of the food that you're actually serving yourself. It's not like going out where you just buy meal that has actually been cooked with a lot of oil, or meal that has actually been processed. But when you are cooking your meals yourself, you know that this is the quantity of oil I'm cooking, this is the quantity of rice I'm cooking, this is the quantity of rice that I'm going to be consuming. All right. So that is it about spending your calories wisely. So I'm going to highlight the 4 points that I've raised in this video, which is number one, knowing the amount of time that you want to eat, which actually falls under planning your meal. Then we have number two, knowing the macronutrients, which are the carbohydrate, the protein, and also the fats. Number three is about meal preparation. That is, the mode in which you actually prepare your meal will actually increase the calorie content or actually level the calorie content. While number four is eating and consuming your food and sorry, eating and consuming your own made food, reduction in eating out. That is the logic. So when you are actually able to prepare your meal yourself, you are in full control. You know this is what you are supposed to eat. Now, before we go, if you actually want to be so sure of the calories in your meal or something, you can always search Google for calorie content in meals. For example, probably you want to cook white rice, you can just search for calorie content in a measurement, a particular measurement. Okay, remember, quantity matters. 100 gram of plantain is going to be 120. 200 gram of plantain is going to be double of 120. So the higher the quantity, the higher the calories in the meal. There is no specific calorie. So that means that a hundred of a I said 100, an orange of 100 gram, which is going to give you 50 calorie. When you take orange of 200 gram, the 200 gram is going to give you 100 calories. Okay, so quantity also matters. Reduce your meal intake, reduce drastically your fat intake, reduce snacking on fatty foods. Okay, reduce your junk, and also reduce liquid calories. Coke, Fanta, they are just water poured. They are just water which are actually consumed like with sugar. They have no health benefits. Yet you consume a whole 200 calories and you still don't feel nothing. So what is the essence? Why are you spending your calorie on just water and sugar? So it doesn't make sense. So I hope you understand this. And if you have any question, don't forget to drop your question in the comment section. Okay, don't forget to drop your comment in don't forget to drop your question in the comment section. And that is going to be all for this episode. Next episode, we are going to be talking about, no, I'm not going to tell you guys. Next episode, we are going to be talking about something else. So make sure you click the subscribe button and also turn on your post notification so that you can be notified when next time I make my post on this channel. So thank you guys for tuning in. Till next week. See you guys. Bye.